Recorded Books presents an unabridged recording of Daniel Boone and the Exploration of the Frontier by Richard Kozar, narrated by Johnny Heller.
Chapter 1. Exploring the Wild Frontier. Today, the word frontier may seem like a strange term. It means the farthest point of civilization or settlement. The reason people seldom think of frontiers anymore is that, except for the deepest parts of the ocean and the unexplored regions of outer space, the world no longer has any frontiers. But a little over 2 centuries ago in America, much of the country was considered frontier, believe it or not. During the 18th century, the land west of the Ohio River was rarely traveled by people other than Native Americans, which is the main reason white settlers avoided the wilderness in the first place. For although not every tribe was hostile, many of the Indians did consider palefaces to be intruders who threatened their food supply and traditional way of life. To these tribes, the only good white man was a dead one. However, despite the dangers of the mid-1700s, there were adventuresome men who weren't afraid to seek out and explore parts of this country where no white man had gone before. They were called frontiersmen, and one of the most famous was Daniel Boone. Boone was happiest exploring and living in the wilderness, far away from the hustle and bustle of civilization. And civilization to him wasn't colonial Philadelphia or Boston, where men and women wore the latest European fashions and lived in brick or stone houses. No, he was famous for moving farther west as soon as he could smell the smoke rising from a new neighbor's log cabin. Not that Daniel didn't try to live like other men of his day. For a while, he did his best to scratch out a living as a farmer. But before long, it was plain that he wasn't really happy living off the land in such fashion. The only way he wanted to live off the land was by hunting squirrel, wild turkey, and deer, and trapping fox, raccoon, and beaver for their valuable furs, which were in demand in colonial America and Europe. And what set his heart pumping was the thought of seeing what was over the next mountain or down the unexplored rivers of America. To men like Boone, the grass was always greener on the other side of the mountain, and as long as there were new mountains to cross, he was happy to trek over them. What legacy did he leave behind? That of a restless explorer, who was seldom content to stay in one place for long, but one whose wanderlust led early American settlers to follow him. Men like Daniel Boone were trailblazers, fearless individuals who risked life and limb to tame the frontier. Most of all, they weren't afraid to leave a relatively peaceful, safe, and civilized life behind. Ironically, however, the very wilderness they explored and conquered was soon populated with land-hungry settlers, the very kind of civilized folk that led Boone to keep heading westward in search of new horizons. Chapter 2. Grass is always greener. Daniel Boone's family had an early history in the American colonies. Like many original settlers, his father, Squire Boone, had left England and come by ship to America. Squire and his brother and sister had been sent by their father in 1712 to see a new colony that promised religious freedom for all, Pennsylvania. The Boones were members of a religious group called Quakers. This group refused to belong to the Church of England, their country's official religion. They also refused to fight in wars and felt they did not need priests or ministers to communicate with God.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.